Welcome back, everybody, to the Renaissance Humanism podcast. Today's episode, I will be discussing the death of conservatism. Um, so, what does it mean to be conservative? What does it mean to different people? And what is your definition? Conservatism means different things to different nations and different countries. For example, a conservative in the United States or in the global north compared to a conservative in an ultra-conservative country like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, they would be seen as a socialist or a liberal. Though these are different definitions, it means different things in different countries. For example, a conservative politician in the United Kingdom will be seen as a socialist in the United States, just because how the political systems work, and now there's all different ideologies. Because there's a massive difference within liberals as well, because a lot of people get mixed up between liberalism and socialism. There's social liberalism and there's economic liberalism. Economic liberalism is all about free market economics, competition, and making sure there's people the freedom to actually work in certain goods and services, the free movement of labour, free movement of people, and free movement of goods and services. And also you've got personal liberalism as well, you've got social liberalism. This is where people are basically free to do what they want, when they want, how they want, without interference from the state or from any other kind of social groups or conventions, either within the society or conventions that are not written down as a pause to give limitations on people. What they cannot do, like fatherhood, motherhood, that could be seen as a anti-liberal due to the term looking after a child, because liberalism and parenthood don't go together. You can't be a mother and be a liberal, because you've got to look after a child for the first 2, 3, 5 years. That child is dependent on their survival, on the mother, on the parents of the household, or their guardians. Without the actual person to look after that child will die, because the first couple of years, all children are is spit, shit, and piss. Because they need looking after, need constant care, and you can't do that if you're liberal and you focus upon yourself. Just the two do not go together that well. Um, this is why we can all see in the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau declared that his country is a post-nation. What this means is post-nationalism or non-nationalism is a process or trend by which a nation-state and national identity lose the importance and relevance of just a nation. And what Justin Trudeau and other liberals are aiming for is a world or a nation not having ties to their historical past, historical roots, and cultural legacies of the Anglo-Saxon world and the English societies. Because Australia, the United States, Canada, they get their traditions, their legal traditions of English common law, the traditions of representation without taxation. It all comes from England and England's historical past. It goes all the way back to 1066, the Norman Conquest, and even previous to that. And that's the cultural legacy that has been passed on from generation to generation to generation. It's about from the creation of England in 927, with Fulstan, the first king of the English, England's first Anglo-Saxon king of England, to the present day is 40 generations. And what Justin Trudeau and others believe, due to the nature of the way they've been educated, because if you go to a liberal university, if you learn liberalism and national identity, nationalism, pride in one country makes no sense. It's seen as archaic, it's seen as backwards, and it's not something that's part of their worldview. For me, myself, going to university, I've been in that kind of environment, and for somebody in that environment, being a liberal is the norm. Nationalism, love of country, and celebration of your own ethnic identity, it's seen as backwards. I would even say it's seen as racism as well, particularly in my country of England, due to people's not seeing, it's not people's skin colour or race, it's more of a social construct, I would say. I would say the identity of people's culture, but it's another social contract, social construct, but it's the identity that's been created. It's the legacy. It's the legacy of the Normans, a legacy of Magna Carta in 1215. It's those legacies, a cultural legacy that needs to be passed on and it needs to be relearned. And when it comes to immigration as well, from my experience, I've worked in place called Successful Mindset Ltd. And what they focused upon when I worked there as well was integration. And basically, inside a certain household, where they've got pan-generational households, it can take a long time for them to actually integrate due to living with their grandparents, great grandparents, brothers, siblings, or parents who just immigrated to the United Kingdom. That means it could take more than 3 generations for them to actually integrate due to living in a planned generational household. And it takes a long time for grandparents to die as well, especially with access to healthcare. So there's sort of that cultural legacy from the nation where their parents or grandparents were from. And it takes a long time for them to actually integrate into local communities, marry local men, marry local women, maybe even change their religion and develop the culture of the community, what they're living in. For a liberal, it will be seen as either racist, saying that one particular set of values, one particular set of history, one particular nation is better than another. I would say this: why do people from South America, from Mexico, people from Africa, from Nigeria make all this travel to have to get into the United States or come to England or Europe? There is a reason for that. It's not based upon racial reasons, it's based upon economic reasons. How these nations have developed, how they've built successful institutions, how they've been so successful in the past 300 years, and their home nations haven't, either due to geographical reasons, due to climate reasons. For example, the Australian continent, Australia, Oceania, Australia is one of the most dangerous places to live on Earth. And because of that reason, and also because they didn't have access to cows, they didn't have access to sheep and other animals for domestication, and also for agriculture, the Aborigines never actually be able to develop their own independent civilization that could equal nations in the Far East or China without the immigration and colonialization that happened, because they never had their technology. And that's not because they were a different skin colour, it was just due to their geography. With some nations are born or die on their geography. They have geographical limitations that can mean that nation can either be a great power, it can be a local power, or it is destined to be consumed by more powerful nations. For example, in France, what we consider France used to be what was around the French crown lands. It was actually around pretty much northern France, around Paris, the Parisians, what they did, the ruling dynasty of France, the Capetian dynasty, that ruled from 987 until the mid to late mid 19th century, when actually dethroned and the Third French Republic was created. Now, what happened in there? The French monarchy, the kings of the Franks, what they originally called from 987, expanded French, what were considered to be French. They conquered Brittany, they conquered Normandy, they conquered the Angevins, they conquered the Aquitanians. Basically, they created what we consider today as modern France. They did it for a period of conquest due to the regional powers and different ethnic groups slowly being absorbed and conquered and converted into becoming French. And the reason why that happened was one due to political reasons and one due to geographical reasons. It enabled the actual French to conquer France. And the same thing happened in England as well, in Great Britain, because Wales and Scotland, as independent nations, in an environment where it's the survival of the fittest, where the strongest nations survived, those nations would not be able to survive in a world order that favoured conquest and favoured assimilation and favoured colonialisation. If the Scotland today, if they became independent and the world referred to something like the politics in the 18th and 19th century with great power competition, with nations battling out for global dominance and global influence and also trade, nations like Wales, Scotland would not survive just because they don't have the geography to successful or a large enough population. There's a reason why England absorbed Scotland and not Scotland absorbed England. Okay, now back to more the focus on the death of conservatism. And let's hope the context that I'm giving you makes sense. I'm trying to keep it short and brief. There's a reason why nations succeed and the reason why legacies need to be passed on. Okay, now we're going to look at the lessons of Edward Gibbon. Edward Gibbon is an historian, author from the 18th century. He created the most famous work, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, where he discussed why the Roman Empire fell, how it was linked to the failure to pass on the cultural legacy to another generation. He strongly linked the death of conservatism in antiquity and early Middle Ages to the fall of the Roman Empire. His reasoning can be linked to people in our time not having children, who are not creating a family unit, a social educational environment where the legacy and culture of the nationhood and beliefs and the national nation's identity is being passed on to their children. This is why people like Justin Trudeau, people educated within the liberal educational system, won't see themselves as English, American, Canadian, or other because they were raised to be individualistic, not part of a community. You may be familiar with this, but you must ask yourself if you have a father, mother, brother, uncle, or other family connections worth the title, worth the description. Suppose these connections are fragile and can easily be broken. This is a sign of the failure of intergenerational families from the silent generation that fought during World War II from 1939 to 1945, and succeeding generations, the Boomer generation born between 1946 to 1964, a generation millennial born between 1981 to 1997, and Generation Z born between 1997 and 2010. Having failed to pass on the baton of the culture, civilization, other legacies of their societies to the next generation. According to the historian David Stark, conservatism philosopher and the conservative philosopher Edmund Burke, conservatism is each generation passing on the legacy of previous generations, institutions created for each succeeding generation. Conservatism is not the absence of change, merely the conservation of national identity, ensuring that there is a nation and a society that each subsequent generation is simply the custodian, protector of the legacy of England or legacy of your national identity in the United States. And this has been happening, as again, as I said before, the 40th generation. For the Chinese, they've at least had 2,000 years. So that sometimes they say 4,000 years, and that's at least 66 to 80 generations where the Chinese have passed on their cultural legacy to each subsequent generation. And that repeated itself in Japan and South Korea as well. Here's an excellent Greek proverb that may explain this far better than I can. It's a point to why conservatism is important and why liberalism does mean the death of society. A society grows strong when old men plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. This proverb speaks of public service to action and the benefits others, not oneself. That's the problem with liberalism. Liberalism is about the individual. It's about the now. It's not about continuing a legacy. Because as a liberal, you can't really believe in that legacy. Because being a loving your country and being a liberal and wanting to continue its legacy, they don't go together. It's like motherhood. You can't be a mother and be a liberal at the same time. The two just don't go together. It's just not how it works, unfortunately. You can have liberal economic policies, it just social policies. It doesn't work to be a mother, to be a father, to have family, some that kind of legacy. You just can't be a liberal within its proper definition. Those two do not go together. So, what does it mean to have a liberal side, and how does liberal to be free of constraints? As I said, to be free of constraints, free of family constraints, to be free of fatherhood constraints, to be free of devotion. Liberalism is the focus on the individual over society as a whole. Economic and social liberalism has been going strength to strength since the 18th century. It can be argued that the reason for its success can be seen in the poster child of liberalism. The United States and Great Britain being the dominant power, being the most successful power for over 300 years on this planet, the most dominant nations, and also having in part due to the legacy of England's and its successing nations, Anglo-Saxon cultural legacy and the legacy of liberalism ingrained inside the English national identity. This freedom has seen the rise of economics and development of unprecedented technology since the end of World War II in 1945. But with this state of liberalism is the death of duty. It leads to people's liberation, which is both a good and bad. You can't be a liberal if you are a mother or have commitments to something beyond what your want and desires. Now, as I said this as well, there can be too much of a good thing or too much of a bad thing when it comes to conservatism. Liberalism, as myself, I'm an economic liberal. I am social liberal. I believe no matter your gender, no matter your sexual orientation, all that, you do what you like. just pointing out that you cannot too much liberalism. It's bad for society. It removes the national framework. It doesn't hold people or communities together. Now, on the whole, I personally do agree that it'd be nice to live in a world where we all live together, we all can sing Kumbaya, we all believe the same things, we're all liberals, but it just doesn't work like that. The Chinese are Chinese, the South Korean are South Korean, the French are French, the Polish are Polish, the Ukrainians are Ukrainians, the Russians are Russians. They have their own national identity, and they don't have a willingness to become part of a global community where everybody sings from the same hymn sheet, everybody speaks the same language, everybody has the same view of liberalism. It's just not how the world works. I think that's the problem with Justin Trudeau. He doesn't understand how the world works beyond Canada and his liberal socialist community. And I think that pretty much covers everything today's episode. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Let me know what you think, and let me know if it's been cleared as well. Just because I'm trying to keep these episodes short and sweet and concise. Thank you for your time, and peace out.